Hello, Mr. Scionka, and welcome to the first edition of the International Film Festival Quo Vadis. We are really delighted to have you here, and we thank you for accepting to have this brief interview with the members of the Doxologia Media team. For those who are watching us, you are a Colorado-based filmmaker known for your work in both long and short documentaries. You have filmed in over 40 countries, producing notable works that have earned your multiple festival honors and awards. Some of your most acclaimed documentary films include Poverty and Be Relentless, along with the documentary short films like The Wonder of Coffee and Miss Schneider. Your recent work, Sacred Alaska, a documentary presented at our festival, explores the intersection of Native Alaskan culture and Orthodox Christianity, highlighting the resilience and faith of the Native communities living in the remote part of Alaska. How did you receive the news that Iași will host an international film festival? What motivated you to participate?
That's great. Yes. When I first got invited to this festival, of course, I was very excited. Initially the film was made with more of an American audience in mind, because it's a bit of like the history of Orthodoxy, how it came to North America. So one of the earliest entry points of Orthodoxy to the North American land is through Alaska, and part of the story that we develop in Sacred Alaska. But I think it's also a fascinating story for other parts of the world, especially parts of, kind of the world that is historically Orthodox and maybe don't know about the fact that there's Orthodoxy, not only in North America, but then even with indigenous Native American group in Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. If you had to summarize in a few words the mission of cinema today, how would you do it? What would you say?
The mission of cinema today?
Yeah.
Okay. So the mission of cinema, I mean, for me, I think to really promote truth, beauty, and goodness is very much a motivator for me and my work and what I do in cinema. And I think we need more of that, in today's day and age in this world. There's a lot of lack of beauty, and then, or a distortion of it, distortion of what it means to be human, a distortion of what it means to be created in the image of God, and so I think cinema has the ability to really put forward truth, beauty, and goodness, and I hope to participate in that.
Yeah, thank you. How do you think a film festival can contribute to the promotion of cinematography and culture among the general audience?
Yeah, I think a film festival is a really wonderful venue to be able to, promote good cinema and art and beauty. I think it's an interesting, it's a wonderful opportunity, because instead of just, maybe what's out in the movie theaters, you can kind of curate and cultivate a very particular thing around cinema, and an event where people come not just to watch movies, and sometimes on a deeper level to watch movies, but also not purely for entertainment, but to learn, to grow, and to be challenged, and to have conversations around it, to meet filmmakers, to meet artists, and kind of hear from them. And so I like the idea of a festival, because it can contribute in kind of a deeper way.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious to find out, how did you start directing movies, and what influenced or motivated you?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to snapshot it for you. As a teenager, I mean, the real short story is that it was a hobby as a teenager that turned into a career, which I'm very grateful for. Part of how that launched into a career was actually in my late teen years, I started doing summer camps for orphan children in Russia. And so I was coming from the United States with other high school and college students, and we do a summer camp for orphan kids. And at the time I was sort of dabbling with cameras, taking pictures, learning photography, and learning a little bit of video work. And through some of my experiences in Russia, I really wanted to share that story about kind of the plight of the Russian orphan, and then the work that this organization was doing. And with a couple other friends, sort of stumbled into making a mini documentary. And I didn't even really know that's what I was doing at the time, but I kind of stumbled into it that way. And then from there, I got kind of opportunities through a production company that saw that work, that thought, okay, I had maybe some raw talent for wanting to tell stories that were meaningful and beautiful and challenging, but needed some guidance on how to do it professionally and do it well. And so then they really kind of trained me up and then helped launch me into a career in my early 20s. And now for over 20 years, I've been doing documentary film work.
Great. How do you choose your stories or movie script?
Well, honestly, Sacred Alaska is the first truly independent film that I've worked on. Okay. So a lot of my previous work and ongoing work, I'm working on a new project, is often in relationship and partnership with others. Often either a client that's hiring for the job, for the particular film, or I'm brought in as a filmmaker on a team with others to kind of help take a project from start to finish. Mm-hmm. So some of them, I'm not necessarily choosing them so much, but what is been a real joy for me is that over the years, I've mostly worked on projects that I've been very excited about and kind of deeply involved in, that are meaningful. So I've done a lot of work around issues of poverty around the world. I've done some history projects that have been very interesting, and economics, as well as for a number of years, I was working with another group of artists producing mixed media, from documentary film to photography and artifacts around the issue of human trafficking and child exploitation. And that was very both challenging but also deeply meaningful work. And so I'm just grateful to God for those opportunities to kind of work on very meaningful projects.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. How do you manage to keep a balance between your artistic vision and the commercial requirements of the movie industry?
And the commercial requirements?
Yeah.
Commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one, But, well, again, with Sacred Alaska, it's sort of the first time I'm doing it on a truly independent level. Okay. And so how my approach with Sacred Alaska was to raise funds to make the film. And so my co-filmmaker, Silas Carbo, and I just set out, we on our own, we kind of launched out. We went to Alaska. We did an initial filming trip and gathered some photos and built a website and a promo. And then we started raising money. And so through that process then, and just through the generous donations of others, as well as through prayer and give thanks to God, we were able to raise enough money to then take subsequent trips back to Alaska, film it, edit it, pay for all the production costs. And so in that sense, that was sort of how we funded the film. At this point, the film isn't like making additional money, it's like it's not making money. We hope on the back end it might do that, and then that would help us fund, at least start funding the next project. So we'll see. But a lot of the work I've done over the years has relied heavily on more of a donation-based model, and then I get hired to be a part of the filmmaking team, whether that be directing or more often kind of director of photography, cinematographer role in projects, as well as editing and producing.
Mm-hmm. I see. Most of the movies are about issues that society faces today. What impact do you hope that they will have? What would you like to achieve through them?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and often one that can sometimes be difficult to pinpoint. Yeah. But one thing I like to do, especially like the projects I've done around poverty, very often there's not a single solution that is like, okay, this isn't working, so just do this instead and it's going to solve all the problems. But rather, I want to help create things that help kind of shift your focus or mindset towards something, perspective. Like sometimes you're not going to totally change someone's mind from this to this, right? Yeah. But if you can just get them to think like, I've never thought outside of this, and now I'm seeing this, or now I'm seeing a little bit more over here. And to just sort of like, you know, just plant those seeds that might change the trajectory of someone's thought just a little bit.
Just a step, maybe.
Yeah, just a step. Like, can you think deeply about this? Can you think differently about an issue than you maybe already were formed, you know? And that's even my own experiences. I mean, even as I'm making films, that's how it affects and impacts me very often. You know, I'll start with some idea of something I want to do, but by the end of the project, I've learned so much. Yeah. My worldview has shifted or opened up or changed in some way because of the people I met, the people I interviewed, and the way a story came together.
You've recently made a movie about the Orthodox faith in Alaska. You've said about it. What drove you to make such a movie?
Yes. Yeah, so Sacred Alaska, I was, you know, the seeds of this was really because of, you know, the way, I mean, Orthodoxy came to North America through a number of different ways. But arguably the earliest kind of touch point of Orthodoxy in North America, and the North American continent, was through Alaska, through Russian Orthodox monks, missionaries who came to Alaska and started to evangelize the native Alaskans who were there. They came both as a service to the Russians who were living and working there, but then also to evangelize native Alaskans. And so like that story in North America, as being an Orthodox Christian in North America, it's part of our history. I mean, Saint Herman is kind of like our first kind of North American saint, is kind of how we view him. And so it's like, it's just part of like our history in North America. And so I started with that, but then there was also this legacy of that Orthodoxy has really stayed amongst the Yupik native Alaskans in their communities, even to the point where at the time of making the film, you know, there were still kind of these talk and rumors and hope of this woman known as Matushka Olga. She was a priest's wife who maybe would be canonized someday, you know? And so there were kind of stories about that. And so she kind of is this, the legacy a bit of what Saint Herman and others started in Alaska, kind of culminating a bit in the story of Matushka Olga, who now the church has officially, the church in North America, the Orthodox Church in North America, has officially declared her a saint in the church. And this year they're going through all the steps to kind of formalize her canonization. So.
What a stunning story. Wow. What impact do you feel this movie has compared to other movies?
Well, I would hope that this film opens anyone who views the film, I hope it kind of opens their eyes to just a new way, or maybe a different way of seeing the world around them and seeing God in their neighbor as well as in nature and their environment. Now, in Alaska, it's kind of easy to sort of connect with like the natural beauty, but I think we can do this in a way too that isn't just in that sense. But wherever God has placed us, whether we live in a big city or we live in a rural part of the world, that how can we just see the beauty of God in the other person, in our neighbor, in our family members, as well as in our environment. And there's some really interesting things that come from the native perspective on how they view their environment and nature that really I hope will speak to us in kind of the modern context and help us remember, like to think back and connect. Like we're not just here on our own in kind of isolation, but that we come from a tradition. And very often in the modern sense, I think we've lost touch with that. Like we kind of don't remember our elders very well. But in the native culture, like remembering your elders is a very big part of who they are. But we can do that in our own context. And then being connected to the animals and the natural world, that's also something that we can do in our own context. And so I hope that there's something to take from kind of this indigenous native culture that can also speak to the modern person. So that's kind of my hope a bit with the film.
To conclude, tell us, how do you see the evolution of film festivals such as Quo Vadis in the context of European and international cinematic art?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think I hope to see more of this, especially festivals that are geared towards, again, a more kind of truth, beauty, goodness behind it, whether it's explicitly Orthodox or not, but to show, to just expose the next generation to cinema as art, and to hopefully reveal the goodness of God and beauty through the art form. So I think it's important. I think we're so inundated with media and video, and we're watching videos on our phones and all that stuff all the time. And I think there's an opportunity to help kind of level that up, to something that is both kind of rooted in tradition and beauty through the art of cinema.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure to listen to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.